Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to kick this off in just about a minute here. We just want to make sure everyone can get in and they're not missing any material. So it's another minute or two here before we kick off. Awesome. I think we can get this kicked off. Still seeing some people join, but this will just be the intro, so we will be missing any material. Welcome everyone. Glad you could join us today for our 1 hour webinar, Mastering Supplier Relationships to Optimize Payments. I'm Sam Maxwell, part of the marketing team here at MHC, and I'll be facilitating today's discussion. Our speaker today is Ernie Humphrey, who I'll be introducing shortly. First, I just want to go over some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and all attendees will receive a follow-up email with the link to the recording on our website. All participants are muted to prevent any background noise, so please type any questions you have into the Q&A section. All MHC webinars are approved via IOFM to give 1 continuing education credit for all attendees. You can expect this certificate 1 day after the webinar, so you'll be getting it tomorrow. We also have a post-webinar survey that will appear when the webinar ends. Please use this survey to let us know how we're doing and to request any additional information. That way an MHC resource can follow up with you. We really appreciate that feedback. Awesome. Ernie, I will kick it over to you now.
All right, thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you to everyone for spending your valuable time with us today. A topic near and dear to my heart: mastering supplier relationships to optimize payments. A little bit about myself. I am a longtime Treasury practitioner who had some of the challenges in taking control of the types and timing of payments. Actually, I didn't take enough control of that. I think that the foundation of that is having a collaborative relationships with your suppliers, because there are costs to the types of payments that you use and also cost to the timings of payments. And again, that's facilitated by supplier relationship management. So a little bit about of our agenda today, the roadmap we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to start at a high level, talk about what strategic accounts payable looks like in today's world of ever-changing technology. And then I'll share some survey results. I've done a few surveys. One of them in particular looks at the state of supplier relationship management, just asked some questions around the level of collaboration with suppliers and how companies are choosing payments and working with suppliers to facilitate that collaboration. We'll talk about some AP issues and some of the root causes. We'll talk about the dimensions of supplier relationships. I don't think that's discussed enough. And then payments and supplier relationships. And then we'll talk about supplier relationships and technology. And then I'll wrap things up with some closing thoughts. Happy to take your questions at any time during the webinar. And so let's go ahead and dive in right here. So what does strategic AP look like? Visibility into all AP processes and communication. Anytime there are asymmetries of information, that's going to give you inherent barriers to success. So what I look to do is tell companies, you need to give those all involved in the AP process visibility, especially into those supplier relationships. Anyone who has contact with your suppliers, we need to make sure that they can see those interactions. For many reasons, the one thing that we want to do is we want to make it a frictionless process. So we don't want to have unnecessary back and forth conversations. We want to look like that we are on the same page in terms of managing our supplier relationships. So that's very important. We also want to try and minimize, obviously, our manual processes. What we want to do is leverage technology to make sure that everyone on our AP team is doing strategic tasks and not on low value add activity, and avoiding issues that could be taken away just from removing asymmetries of information and facilitating a environment of collaboration. Then we'll talk about how to optimize your payments. Mixed type, I like to tell people, to me, it's like your 401k plan, right? You want to have goals for each bucket. Checks are checks, and they're not going away as much as all of us in the US would like them to go away, they're not. So if we're going to optimize checks, if we're making a conscious decision to write checks, let's make sure that we are being as efficient as possible and minimizing the time that our approvers are using, especially those of us outside of AP, Treasury, Finance, CFO. We don't want them spending time and having problems with our approval process and manual process. It involves investing in strategic relationships. And so it's very nice. We might want to have all our suppliers accept virtual cards and ghost cards, and so we can get a rebate on that. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as that's being communicated to our suppliers. So we're not just always dictating, right, what that is and expect them to take that haircut, because supplier relationships matter, and the relationship starts right from the onboarding and vetting side of things. So people need to be cognizant that we are building that relationship, and it doesn't take much to get a relationship off track. We want to be facilitating collaboration with Treasury so we can look at optimizing our working capital. And also, it's really going to help. The more collaboration that we have, we are going to deliver more information so our friends in Treasury can have a better cash forecast. So we are not borrowing or making FX decisions or making debt decisions based on inaccurate information. So we want to make sure that we're optimizing that working capital, and we want to look to optimize the payment timing. So let's take a look at the timing of our payments. Are we taking discounts? Are we not? Let's have visibility in making sure that we understand, okay, we have these discounts available. This is why we're not taking them. It almost always makes sense to take that discount. And so when I was way back in the day when I was in Treasury, it was always business as usual. Okay, we do two check runs, and one or two check runs, maybe Tuesday and Thursday, and then we do wires on Friday, and that was it. So that can be a dangerous proposition for you in terms of managing your working capital. And then we want to maximize the control of payment types. So let's work with our suppliers. So there's a lot of times companies find a huge benefits from just moving someone from checks to an electronic payment. Of course, we want to be offering that remittance information as well, but that is a huge step. So it's not always necessarily, hey, you're on checks, we're going to get you on a virtual ghost card. It might be something of a journey. Okay, they're writing checks for a long time. Let's move them to ACH, and then eventually we'll get them to some type of card. So that's what I mean by that control. So there needs to be a strategy, right? We have this many percentage of customers in this bucket, and maybe our goal is in the next 2 quarters to get a certain percentage of those onto electronic payments and then move them from ACH to maybe our ghost or virtual card. So to me, that's what strategic AP looks like. And I think it's clear from that list what really facilitates that is investing in our relationships, not only outside, but internally as well. So strategic AP requires internal collaboration. And so on that front, again, some of the same points, visibility into the P2P related processes, all of them is critical for all those that have an impact on the AP process. Visibility into supplier interactions within and across departments. We want to be managing those interactions with suppliers. We want to make sure that each and every time we communicate with a supplier, there's a reason for it. And there should be a desired action that's going to be taken. And we should be tracking that. Is this action taking place? Is it not? Why not? How often are we reaching out? Why are we doing that? Are we seeing trends that are causing these interactions, which are creating friction in our process? We want to make sure that we have the right dashboards and reports, right, to certain people within and across AP. If we're responsible for creating those dashboards and sharing data, let's make sure that we're cognizant of the consumers of that data. So what is it that's going to make my AP specialist more productive and do a better job in serving customers and taking control of payments? Our AP manager, that might be a different reports. We might need to send some reports to our controller. Well, that's different. We're going to send those to the CFO. CFO and CEO may be a little different because they have different objectives. So especially when I point out for the C-suite, we want to help them ask the right questions for us. So we don't want them getting in the weeds and showing our analyst by analyst productivity. What we want to do is give them information that allows them to ask the right questions. Oh, hey, we saw an uptick in AP processing costs. Can you tell me what's going on? Hey, that acquisition that we just did. Oh, okay, I see that. And so, what are things that are driving that? I think this was especially important during COVID, which was actually terrible in a lot of ways. But the little bit of a beacon of light for those in AP and AR and Treasury is that it really forced us to look at the cost, right, of having these disjoint processes, and it's actually facilitated technology adoption, and it's actually gotten a lot of accounts payable professionals a seat at the strategic table. So we need to make sure that we are optimizing that opportunity. So let's just cut to the end. This is why investing in supplier relationships is important. There's bottom line impacts. You have few supplier issues and disputes. I've been doing research on AP metrics for the past 5 or 6 years now. And so it baffles my mind how much time companies are spending, their teams are spending with issues, disputes, kind of disputes, or not really disputes. So the amount of time that is spent, lost productivity, and damages those relationships as well. We want to have less time spent on each type of supplier dispute so that both of those facilitate more productivity, also facilitates happier AP professionals. So there is definitely a war for talent. So technology is really going to be something that people are asking about. So if you're going into other countries, you're growing your business, you have an M&A, and you're going to need to add some AP staff, they're going to be looking at your technology. So having old, outdated processes, manual processes, this can keep you from getting the right talent, but it can also keep you from keeping your talent engaged, and you can lose your talent elsewhere. And AP is often different, right, across industries. So there's some knowledge that is extremely valuable. And also those relationships that these individuals have with your suppliers can be incredibly important as well. We have working capital side, improve supplier type management, payment type. That's going to help on our cost line. Payment timing management, that's actually going to help on our bottom line. It's going to help us optimize our control of cash, and that's going to help facilitate our company growth. We're going to improve employee engagement, which is going to increase their productivity, which is going to impact the bottom line. And it's also going to give us what I call business agility, because the less time that our people are spending on non-value add tasks, the more time they have to focus on value add tasks. So let's say, for example, we're looking into getting in these new markets. Hey, what might that look like in terms of AP? Hey, how are we doing benchmarking against AP trends in our industry? We can go out and do things like that. So it allows us to pivot. How about are we going to be ready? Right. So we're looking at going into these countries. Okay, let's have my AP team go out and look at what are the specific challenges to this country. So we're ready. Our AP volume is going to be growing because of an acquisition. Okay, are we ready for that? So being ready gives us business agility. What happens, it's companies still, is that technology dictates their business practices. So that's probably the worst case scenario for someone saying, okay, we have this AP, we have all these things going on. Well, we can't do that because our technology doesn't allow us. What's that going to do? It's going to damage our supplier relationships. We know about all the supply chain issues going on, right? So we want to avoid that. So we need to value each and every supplier relationship, and that's important. It's always important. But those of you that are in manufacturing, I was in manufacturing, so I think it's maybe the most important in those issues where disruptions in that supply chain can bring your business to a complete halt. And obviously, that's going to have repercussions with your bottom line and in the financial health of your company. So I'm going to go ahead and launch first polling question here. Just trying to get a sense for you, for your company. Please share with us how important is supplier relationship management at your company. Appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions here today. Really appreciate that. Just helps us benchmark. Also helps me level set where I take the conversation and the remaining time that we have together. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the polling question up for another maybe 5 or 10 seconds or so. and then I'll go ahead and get us back to our content. So I appreciate that again. We can still take your questions in the questions area of the GoToWebinar control panel, and want to remind you that the session is eligible for CEU credits. So to do that, you're going to have to go ahead and answer the polling question for me. So let me go ahead and I'll leave the question up for a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick peek at the results. And so we have very important, 78%, extremely important, 22%. So I'm glad to see that that's important. I guess that makes sense because you're on the webinar today. Hopefully, we can inspire you to spend even more time and be even more productive and with your suppliers and form even better relationships. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to answer the polling questions. So I'm going to share with you some survey results. This is from a survey that I conducted myself, my company. We had over 250 responses across a wide variety of industries and company sizes. So I'm comfortable with the data on all levels. I have a statistics background, so that's very important to me, data integrity and making any kinds of inferences from data. A lot of times the best value from looking at survey results is to help you look internally, right? Ask questions. It inspires you to have conversations. And sometimes it's as simple as taking a look in the mirror and seeing how things are done at your company. So from what we saw from our audience here today versus a survey, you guys are doing a little better in times of that. So 13% said it's decent, 3% not good, 55% you can do better. So 29% ideal. We communicate and collaborate proactively. So let's think about that. I think that's where we can look in the mirror. Okay, how do you communicate effectively? So you have to communicate before you collaborate. So you have to look at how things are being communicated, what's the format, who's doing that, right? What type and tenor of communication. So once you establish the effective communication, then you're going to have the ability to collaborate and can communicate with, right? Communicate with your suppliers. AP done well on our side should translate into AR done well on your side. So exchanging that information electronically, taking control of those payments, knowing exactly when they're going to take place is extremely important. So, State of the Union, we still have a lot of work to do, right? But that's okay. We have to raise the issue. So, technology is extremely, extremely important on many levels, but we can't lose sight of the soft skills. Technology allows us to make data-driven decisions. And then, okay, how do we make those decisions? Well, we have to be able to communicate and collaborate with our suppliers. Again, you don't want to necessarily, you don't, in my opinion, force your suppliers to do only want to have no input, right, on the way that they get paid. We want to make that collaboration. I'm not telling you to let them do whatever they want. It should be a process. Okay, this is how we prefer, and this is why, and this is what it means for you to accept those payments on your side. So if you show them AP on my side, it's AR benefits on your side. So you're trying to create that win-win proposition, and you can do that with your suppliers. So let's talk about the relationships. So a lot of times people talk about supplier relationships and they don't really get into what I call the dimensions and the dynamics. And so it all starts from supplier onboarding. We want to make sure that that is an efficient process, mitigates communication. It is as easy as possible. And also we want to make sure that we have effective vetting on our side for all the compliance, increased compliance, especially if we are doing business overseas, more complex regulatory environment. Unfortunately, we still had political conflicts and military conflicts across the globe. So we need to be really cognizant that we are even allowed to do business with companies in certain countries. And we need to educate, right, our staff on that. Our procurement, if it doesn't go right through AP, we need to make sure that they are aware of those restrictions and those up the chain, right? Our VP of production or who's ever trying to push, maybe they're trying to push on a supplier. We got to do better. We got to increase that supply chain. We got to make sure that we're cognizant that we're allowed to do business in those countries, and also look at the wire instructions on where money is going. And so there's a lot of details there that we need to make sure we're on top of. Um, so obviously one dimension is communications. Like I said, visibility is important. What is the type of communications? What's the timing of communications? Why are there communications? In an ideal world, you have the term set, the supplier, boom, you don't have to have a lot of interaction, right? They pay on time, boom, hey, we pay you on time, right? You're paying me with a credit card, I get 3% back. Nifty, or you may be able to negotiate discount. So, ooh, now do we have discount? They have a discount program. Look internally with your treasury team and see what's our cost of cash and going out the door, right? Does it make sense? Okay. Then we can look at the timing as well. We talked a lot already about dispute issue management. So that's definitely an issue, and supplier payment type and supplier payment timing. So those are two different things that we want to take control of, or at least influence, right? Type of payment. The cost of the type of payments is still, even in today's electronic world, significant. The easiest way to break it down is checks and not checks, right? Because checks are really expensive to process on many levels. An ACH is much less costly. And again, there can be rebates associated with certain types of, I'll call them cards, commercial cards, credit cards, T&E cards, all those good types of things. Because if you think about it, even our employee reimbursement is what I call internal accounts payable. So those are all of the dimensions to supplier relationship management. So we want to make sure that we are on top of all those, and that people that are going to be interacting with our suppliers understand that. And again, even before supplier onboarding, just when we're going out and vetting suppliers before that. So I should probably have another bullet point that says supplier vetting as well. So we want to make sure that when we're vetting those folks, we are engaging with the right types of suppliers. Our suppliers should match the culture at our company, and go through, how we build those trusted relationships. And that starts from the first point of contact, if that's from procurement or accounts payable. So let's take a look at some survey results. Let's look at some supplier issues. People could select more than one answer, obviously. Supplier issues, timing of payment, not really surprising. And here's some things where we can see information issues are causing asymmetry of information, or inefficient exchange of information is causing a lot of issues. Need more information to process an invoice, clarification of invoice, and people are requesting the same information more than once. Those are things that we can address with technology, automation solutions, leading solutions such as MHC. So those are things, they seem difficult, not they're totally going to go away, but you can mitigate those. Those are all low hanging fruit, as is discount related issues, right? A lot of times, whether it's right or wrong, the supplier is going to say, there's going to be some confusion, and the confusion is going to be like, okay, can I get on the phone with you and we could look at the same screen? Or even better, maybe using something like a supplier portal, right? And they can always see what's open, what's not open, and then they can start asking questions before something is due. So those are some current supplier issues. I also asked folks, what's the issue that takes up the most time? Some of them are similar: timing of payment, more information. So again, some of these things are mitigated by technologies. In some platforms, you can communicate directly. I need more information to process the invoice. The other part is you can see trends. Like, why would you keep asking the customer for the same, or the supplier, I'm sorry, supplier, for the same information over and over and over, right? That will allow us to see, oh, what is it? Wait a minute. They said that last time. So how do we bridge any information gaps and make sure they don't happen again? How do we adjust our processes, right? How do we get them? How do we adjust invoices so they can be easily consumed and which are on our side, so we can make sure that we process them on our side, so we're not going back and forth with our suppliers. And then the other part of kind of related to that is you can have discounts like 210 net 30, but if you can't process an invoice in 10 days, you can't get discounts. So that's another cost of being inefficient, is lost opportunities. Let's go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and go back. I'm gonna have to. All right, let's go ahead and take a peek at our next poll here. All right, bear with me. All right, next poll. How much time does your AP team spend on dealing with supplier issues and disputes? I'd say on a monthly basis, is it 6, 10 hours, 11, 25 hours, more than 25 hours? So just trying to get a sense of how much time that you're spending there. And then again, a lot of the times some of the content and the polling questions is just about getting you to think. I really don't know. Well, let's find out. So, especially when you start getting into it's of course over 11 hours, 12 hours, it's like what are the root causes of this? What can we do? Are we having the same issues? Can we categorize those issues and disputes? And then you can also start to see, are there trends with specific customers, maybe at specific industries? So there's a lot of different dynamics there. So what we see is 11 to 25 is the most is what we see from the poll results. Just go ahead and give you guys a peek at those. So what I'm going to do is after I stop sharing those, I'm going to show you the results of the survey. And I saw more than 50, but it's amazing to me the amount of folks that are in the 26 to 50 hours. So it just seems to be that there's got to be a better way, and technology helps us facilitate better customer relationships. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to answer the polling results, the poll. So what about my survey results? 27%, 0 to 5, 6 to 10. But then if you look at the tail, 25%, 26 to 50, 51 to 100, over 100. So, and also think about this as especially the enterprise companies, there's more opportunities if they don't have the right technology, right? The more suppliers that you have, the more countries that you're in, and the more manual that your processes are, those are really going to drive up those numbers. So, especially if you have a lot of volume, you have a diversity of your customers, you have a diversity of countries, you need to make sure that you offer them the right technology and give them the right incentives to develop those supplier relationships and give them that visibility so you can mitigate that time. What is the value of spending time on a phone? And then also you want to look at, are the issues perceived or are they actual? Right? Is it a actual issue, perceived issue, and why is that the perception? Is it asymmetry of information? Is it how the contract is written? And so once you start to get at those root causes, you'll be able to figure out, okay, how do we facilitate better communication? Do we need to upgrade our technology? Do we need to train our procurement team? Do we need to train our AP people? Right? Do we need to write templates for how emails are going out? Do we have to look at the timing? So situation. This is the issue. This is a natural first step. We'll send an email out if we don't get a response. If we get this response, sometimes you can automate that process in systems. And so we want to make sure we are being creating as frictionless as process as we can with our suppliers. And also we need to be authentic with our suppliers and let them know, right? If things are going to change, if things change in terms of the payment on our side, if we're going to be a little late for some reason, let's be honest with that. Otherwise, you're going to damage that relationship. And what's going to happen when there's a big supply chain issue, and say maybe they supply your competitors as well. Guess what? Who's going to have the advantage, right? The one that's invested in that relationship. So I also asked if do you track issue categories and dispute times. I was surprised. I was glad to see that 68% said yes and 32% said no. And even if you're a smaller company, having this in place is valuable because as you start to grow, this is going to become even more valuable. Again, as you start to see the issues, you have visibility. You can start to say, okay, what is the issue? What's the cause? Uh, are there people that are better? But do you have people that are communicating that are more efficient in dispute management? And then it might just be ask the person, right? What are they doing? Is it just their personality? Are there things that you can train up your other folks as well? Or is it just the industries? And if it's just by industry, then what you want to do is say, okay, John is our or Debbie is our most efficient person at disputes. Why don't we think about moving Debbie into this industry? Or maybe it's these big suppliers that we have, very important. Maybe we can try Debbie on there, and then you want to look at if when it makes sense to have a dedicated person to deal with your suppliers and not just go to a general mailbox and everyone's picking out of the general mailbox. And so that's a different webinar, right? All right. So this is important as well. What are the root causes? These are just food for thought on your side. Helps you with those issues, how you categorize those sources of friction, documents, communication from suppliers. That's 48%. Again, technology can help us with this. This is a low-hanging fruit here. Too much paper, manual processes, asymmetry of information, access to supplier activity. Excel doesn't cut it. That's pretty low. It's okay. Too much paper. We manage AP in silos at our company. So the 32%, too much paper, documentation, asymmetry of information, access to suppliers activity. Those are all things that we can solve uh, with the right AP automation solution. And then I've also done research into silos and causes of silos. You need to look internally and say, do silos exist? If so, what is the root cause? What I've seen in my research is that the root cause is oftentimes that's just the way that it's always been. We don't have an incentive to collaborate. So it becomes a culture, right? And so you got to look at, are there silos within AP? Are there silos between AP and our approvers that we can take down to make this a frictionless process again? And that's going to impact our bottom line. So I asked folks going into 2024, the amount of time you're going to spend on supplier relationships. Is it going to go up, go down, or decrease? So I was encouraged to see 48% said increased. But if you're ideally already there, you can say stay the same. So it's a double-edged thing, right? So you can say, if I'm being efficient, I might spend less time. So you could have a decrease. But to me, I guess what that means, which is the way I would take it, spend on building supplier relationships. So spending more time thinking about it, analyzing it, right? Making sure that we are being a good partner is interesting as well. Again, just referencing the survey that I have done. If you're interested in the full report, just go ahead and let us know. Happy to share that with you along the same lines. There's a lot of other great thought leadership webinars and white papers at the MHC website if you haven't checked that out. So let's dive a little bit just to give you some more food for thought in managing your supplier communications. Who's communicating with a supplier from your company? Why are they communicating with a supplier? Does each communication have a purpose? Is it in a category? Does it have a desired action? And is there visibility? Right? Those are just things to think about. Takeaway. So even if you came in the webinar thinking, wow, we are doing a really good job on supplier communications, hopefully we're going to, best case scenario is we're going to inspire you to take an action or have a conversation. You're going to say, you know what? I never thought about it this way. That's why I see myself as a unique speaker is I try and get people to think outside the box, ask questions that other folks might not be inspired to ask. And some of what I do, it seems like common sense, but sometimes those things get away from us because we're too busy, because we're focused on AI and chat GPT and whatever. We got to get the blocking and tackling right. And the relationships are the foundation for business success. And that's especially the case in AP and managing our supplier relationships. So what does strategic AP look like? Collaboration with our suppliers. Again, I said earlier communicating. More efficient AP on our side is more efficient AR processing for your suppliers. Invest in understanding the AR challenges of your suppliers. Are you getting that remittance information over with? Communicate the benefits of electronic exchange of documents if that's not happening. Educate your suppliers on the value of electronic payments. Hey, if you do that, you're going to know exactly when you're going to get your payment. You're going to help your treasury team. You're going to improve your working capital management as they have a better sense of what's money's coming in the door. So your suppliers can avoid borrowing when they don't need to and making those suboptimal working capital decisions. And then, if it makes sense, identify opportunities for early discount opportunities as well. So, taking advantage of those as well. Um, and then just kind of, getting at it again, supplier relationship, the payment type matters. Processing costs, they vary by payment type, and the magnitude of inherent, what I call productivity processing drag, varies by payment type. And just to note, if you're going to change some types of payment that you're going to, that you're going to be processing, you need to make sure that everyone's trained up on that and look at the potential costs of that. And then risk exposures vary by payment type. That's another webinar. There are various types of risk associated with checks versus ACH versus wires versus certain types of card payments. And then on your client side, AR processing costs vary by payment type, and your AR risk exposures vary by payment type as well. So having that collaborative relationship is certainly going to be beneficial. So the other thing to kind of think about, and I don't know if it's stressed enough in AP, it's drilled us to us in Treasury, the time value of money. What is it worth for your company to have XXX dollars today versus having it in the future? So, as an AP professional, your goal should not be to, hey, we want to do payments every Thursday. We're only doing 2 check runs because that's the way it needs to be, because that's the way we want to do it in AP. That's not the right philosophy. You should be looking at, okay, what's the value to our company, right? To taking control types and timing of payments. Again, are we losing discounts, which is really important for working capital management? And then if we can't even see discounts and not taking them, then that's really important as well, facilitating those. And so we need to be sure that people understand the time value of money in addition to the type of payments that we have. And if you think about all the headaches with processing, if you look at checks versus ACH, it's more cost efficient on many levels for most cases as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and launch our third polling question here. Just curious on the why of payments. How do you choose to pay your suppliers? Do you just pay in the most effective manner? You try and make suppliers accept card payments. Suppliers pay the way they've always been paid. Collaborate with them to choose, or you don't know. So I'm gonna leave the polling question up for about 30 more seconds or so, and then we'll go ahead and take a peek. And then, as we've been doing throughout the webinar, we're going to go ahead and see how your answers compare to the survey results from the survey that I've been referencing throughout the webinar. Okay, thank you, everyone. Seems like everyone's weighing in here. So let me go ahead and give you a few more seconds. Let's go ahead and end the poll. Let's go ahead and share the results. So what we see is it's pretty much of a mix. I like paying the most cost-effective manner, but we still have, over 50% try and make all suppliers. Suppliers pay, they've always been paid. I guess my favorite answer is we collaborate and let them choose. And you don't know, which just means that's got to be your homework to find out. So again, look at the why. Why are you doing things? Why are we paying them in a certain way? Is there a way that we can do a better job in pushing that right to the most cost-effective manner without damaging that relationship that we have with our suppliers? So the survey results, again, it's a little bit lower. So we had 44% cost effective. It was only 27% on our survey results. Again, we had 256 respondents. We did have a meaningful number of companies in the mid-market and enterprise size. So that's a little surprising. 36% how they've always been paid. So that's something that's a mindset, right? And so I think part of it is just companies don't think about it. Okay, what is the cost of that? So what would happen if we moved 10% of our suppliers to ACH? What would happen 20%? What would happen to 30%? Oftentimes, that will more than pay for an investment in an AP automation solution. It really it starts the business case to invest in automation comes down, and I think that's a piece that people don't really start with. Oftentimes, that is low-hanging fruit on that case of it, just converting those suppliers being paid more efficiently, and that visibility into a lot of interactions helps us see where there's the opportunities to easily convert our suppliers, and then we should talk to our procurement teams and look at putting incentives in our contract to certain ways. So maybe you give someone a little discount for accepting, and you're doing business with a card payment, right? Versus a check. So there's a lot of ways to nudge the suppliers into a win-win situation. So let me go ahead and wrap things up before our Q&A with some key takeaways from our time together today. Companies, they need to be more strategic relative to how and when they make payments. This requires collaboration uh, within your AP team and between your AP and Treasury teams. I found that there's silos within AP and then between AP and Treasury. When I've gone to AP focused live events, I've actually had AP folks in the audience say, well, how do I approach Treasury? How do I build that bridge? And then it can be as easy as, hey, I saw on this webinar. I never realized that there was much more into what you guys are doing. Is there any way that we can work together? You may be able to help us. We'd like to look at taking a more active approach in optimizing the types of payments, and then work with you on the timing of payments and see, and maybe also we might be able to give you a more accurate forecast on our AP. So that those data-driven decisions, earlier I showed you all the bottom line impacts that has. So that can be very important. What it can also do is also show that AP is a strategic partner with the company. It's not just a cost of doing business. It's not just a back office operation. We are facilitating relationships that impact the success of our company. Boom. In the day, if we weren't doing our job well, these are the impacts. So some of it is, this is a cost of business as usual, which is a lot, or you can take it, this is the value that we can bring. On the cost side, if you look at it, it's pretty compelling. Once you start to see, we're going to save the company, let's say $50,000 a month, right? Smaller company, $50,000 a month, every month. What is that? It's $600,000 to the bottom line. That's significant. What if it's $100,000 a month? Those bottom line impacts, and it's going to be more than just that cost. So you can say efficiency, processing costs, this much less time. Oh, we also switched payment types. Oh, John also wasn't spending time on this. So you could start to see the impacts on the bottom line. This is when we started doing these things. This is specific things we can measure, but also we can see the company has success in other metrics as well. So that's important. We talked about visibility. You can't manage what you can't see, especially in terms of relationship management. Your company has a relationship with a supplier, and it's usually just more than one person. So we need to make sure that everybody is empowered to have visibility so they do not have an unintended negative consequence to a supplier relationship, and that they are empowered to remove any friction felt on the suppliers and by being able to resolve any dispute or issue or things of that nature in a timely manner, and show that they are priority. Each communication matters, and each supplier managers in general, companies need to invest more in supplier relationships. That to me is always a win-win. technology just to look at it, right, where you're at, where you want to be. Even if you already have an AP solution in place, you should start to look at, are you getting all the value of all those dimensions that a solution can provide in terms of efficiency and also removing productivity drags as well and improving those relationship. So any technology that helps empower supplier relationship management, removes those asymmetries of information between suppliers and customers, so you and your suppliers, your AP team, your suppliers, between your AP team internally, between your AP and Treasury folks, that is going to deliver more control over how and when you make payments, which is going to impact the bottom line. And what I've seen, which is good news for the folks in accounts payable, is that companies are investing in technology to empower AP success in 2024. So it's we have all these things about, oh, technology is going to take my job away and AI is going to take my job away. It's actually an opportunity for folks in the AP profession to redefine their value proposition. So it's actually an opportunity. You have more time. So let's focus more on supplier relationships. And so let's do that to deliver more value. I'm going to go ahead and real quick launch our final polling question, and then I'll go ahead and hand it over for any questions that you might have. So let me go ahead and launch that final polling question. So please answer the polling question. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone today. So it's really important that you take the opportunity and really support the commitment that MHC has to supporting thought leadership. So they not only support thought leadership, delivering webinars like this, they're also supporting the career success of those that use their software, taking some of this in, make someone, excuse me, a better AP professional. And anyone else that uses their solution, it's making them more productive, but it's also making them more valuable to their employers. So I'm going to leave the polling question up just for another few seconds or so. Again, happy to take any questions that you have during the webinar night. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask after the webinar is over, please feel free. You can reach out to myself, Ernie Humphrey on LinkedIn. Even better to reach out to my friends at MHC as well. Again, I use them as a source for my stay on top of my game, so I encourage you to do the same. So let's see. Oh, I want to review these one more time. Uh, Bottom line impacts. This is kind of the just part of the ROI to investing in supplier relationships, fewer disputes, less time spent on low value activities, more time spent on value add activities, improved type of payment, timing of payment, employee engagement, and visibility. All these things are incredibly important. The one I hit on near the bottom, employee engagement. It's talent. You got to have the right talent. So to keep the right talent, to get the right talent, that's important. There's just many ways that that impacts the bottom line. So even more recommendations that I have, just at a higher level for you to take away. Deep down dive into your entire AP processes, people, process, technology. If you haven't done that in a while, it really starts to shine a light where you can do better. You want to streamline the approval processes. Approvers are often managers and executives. We want to make that as streamlined as possible. Whole webinar focus on communication and collaboration, right? They are key barriers to communication, create ripples that can be bad through the entire process. Ensure that your team has the data necessary to easily calculate and analyze those performance activities to drive the value that's delivered by AP. If you're looking to invest in AP automation, ensure that you understand all the potential benefits and find the solution that offers the functionality, but also an actual commitment to customer success. I can tell you that MHC has that commitment because I've talked to some of their people that work in customer success. Invest in the right technology. After you've invested, make sure your company understands and is measuring the benefits, right? Customer success. Did you promise us? Are we getting that? And then report that to up the chain as well and show the impact and then strategic value that's being delivered by accounts payable. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the floor for Q&A. I'll go ahead and hand the floor back over to you, Sam.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. Thanks for that presentation, Ernie. We did have some Q&A come in.
Okay.
So first question is from an AP professional. It says, I work in AP. How should I approach a Treasury colleague to collaborate with them to optimize payments?
Right. I think I tried to touch on that a little bit. It would be something, okay, if you don't have a relationship with that person, if you already speak for them, just it's as simple as, hey, I was just on a webinar focused on AP automation, and they always keep telling me a bunch of the benefits are to take more control, right, over the type of timing of payments. I'd like to talk to you about how we can collaborate to do that. So I was just curious, it's almost a conversation. This is the way that we're doing, choosing our payment types and timings right now. Is there a way that you can help us become more strategic? So it's also about speaking their language, just going over and saying, hey, I know that Treasury is an important part of cash management. I watched this webinar. It was interesting. I got a better understanding of what you guys are doing. And I know that my forecast impacts working capital management. So it's really kind of an olive branch. And I can just about guarantee uh, everybody has a bad day. But if I was in Treasury and someone came over, I would be very excited because a lot of times it's just about extending the olive branch.
Perfect. Actually, this next question piggybacks on that one around collaboration. This question is, we have silos in AP. How do I approach my boss about eliminating them?
So I think it's the one of the things is that so the question is do both parties in the silo report up to your manager? So that's one. So if they report up to the same manager, then I would say, hey, I was on this webinar and I saw the importance we were talking about silos, and then I was just kind of thinking, you know what? I think we may have a little bit of a communication barrier, a collaboration barrier across these different areas. So I was just wondering if we could talk about that. Are there ways, or you can present it as, you know what? If I think if we didn't spend, I spent a lot of time doing this. I think there might be a better way to do that. And then if you have the answer, say, can we think about this or have you thought about this? If it's a different manager, under a different manager, then I would go to your manager and say, hey, I think we could collaborate better with this area. And then they'll go manager to manager, and then that will flow down. That makes sense.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. We have one last question here. How do I inspire a supplier to change from accepting a check to accepting an electronic payment?
Yeah. So the one reason, the first thing I would say is that when I was in Treasury, a lot of times they wanted a payment was because of their remittance information, so you could be effective on cash application. So that's why I would say, hey, you're currently using a check. Have you ever considered an electronic payment? It's going to cost your money less to process that. You're going to get better information on type and timing. And as long as you're able to push that remittance information over, excuse me, it's not going to cause them a big headache. So I think that's the reason is, hey, I see we've done this a long time. I'm just kind of curious if you know the reason, why we're operating with a check. So, because I feel like it might be more efficient for both of us if you go towards an electronic payment. And again, it's less costly on their side as well. They can get the same remittance information, and it gives them predictability on their AR receipts.
Great. Awesome. Thanks for these thoughtful answers. Um, Perfect. I think that wraps it up for today. Again, thank you, Ernie, and thank you all for attending. If you're interested in learning more about what's going on at MHC, you can register for our monthly newsletter. That way, you'll receive reminders about upcoming webinars and interesting thought leadership content, like our great session today. We actually will be having two webinars next month. So don't miss out. Again, Ernie, thank you a ton for joining us today. And thanks everyone for attending.